We're back with more Wu-Sabat. We are back. We are back. We are back with more Wu-Sabat. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Kabul, Kabul, Kabul. Kabul means welcome in our language, our Lahaj, Sabaic. Kabul, Kabul, Kabul. Layeh, Kalal, to all. Kabul, Kabul, Kabul. Layeh, Kalal. Welcome to all. Rahubat, family. We're back. We have a lot to cover. Today we're going to be talking about the cycles. We're going to be talking about planes. And we're going to be talking about densities. All of these are essence of reality. And it's a very important subject matter. The master teacher has been teaching us about since the very beginning about doctrine. You know, when he opened the seventh seal in 1970, he's been educating us about these very important concepts that we used to know. Our ancestors used to know these things, and unfortunately we've forgotten about what are cycles, what are planes of reality, and what are the densities within natural nature. Very, very, very important subject matters for us to relearn, to comprehend, and then learn to apply. Extremely important for us to learn, comprehend, and be able to apply these concepts. And so this is what today's discussion is about, educating you about the nature of cycles, the nature of planes, and the nature of densities. Of course, this is just an introductory lesson because there's no way to explain this concept within a 2-hour discussion. But I always tell you guys to leave comments, to ask questions, because questions stimulate the mind, consciousness. It's one of the reasons why we're doing the Nupal live discussions, right? That we're doing today every Tuesday as a reminder. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're having these discussions. Extremely important that we as Sabians communicate with each other. As I like to say, we're looking for the true Sabians, right? where is that? The true Sabians that the master teacher has stressed that we must get back to being, true Sabians again, and live in a culture to all true Sabians. As you see, a Wu-Sabat, it's about the culture. And the masters talked about how we've gotten away from the culture. And that's what these discussions are about, to help students of Wu-Sabat and those who are really want to learn and understand what we're teaching, what our culture Wu-Sabat is all about as Nawapians, or we say Wu-Nawap. This is our original culture. This is our original culture. And unfortunately, we've forgotten it. And because of our forgetfulness within the last 6,000 years, we've been suffering as a people, because we've divided ourselves into all of these different tribes and clans and organizations and philosophies. We have a billion different philosophies and ideologies, all of these divided minds. And we've become nothing but one gigantic target for everybody else. You have anti-blackness everywhere, all over the globe. Everyone knows this. Black people with woolly hair, highly melanated people, woolly hair by nature, are being attacked everywhere. Not somewhere, but everywhere on this planet. Because we become an easy target when a group of people literally forget who and what they are. You become an easy target, and living on a planet where you have others who have no problem taking advantage of others, then that goes to show you why we're in our position that we're in. Because when we're divided, there is no power, right? We succeed as a part of all. We fail as individuals. So when we splinter ourselves up, we become easy targets. And so the only way for us to fix the problem we're dealing with on the planet is for us to unify. But the only way to unify is we have to unify our minds first. When the minds are united, the bodies will naturally come together, because those who think the same do the same. I repeat, those who think the same do the same things. And so, again, this is why the teachings of Wu-Sabat, the teachings of Wu-Nawap are so crucial and so important. And let me make this point. It's about those who care. This doctrine is only designed for those who care. If you really care about your race, your people, because most of, well, I'll say so many of our people all over the globe can care less about the woolly-haired melanated race. They only care about themselves or their own personal family or their own personal group that they're a part of. That's it. You know, and why is that? It's simple, because it's an indoctrination. When you find melanated woolly-haired people all over the globe, they're indoctrinating their own children into this mindset, this individualistic mindset, and they don't have enough reasonability to realize that's they're creating their own self-destruction. They can't figure it out, which is why you see on social media melanated people debating, fighting each other, complaining about one another. The black man is complaining about the black woman, and the black woman is complaining about the black man. So that tells you we're suffering from a mental sickness. In fact, no one complains and dogs each other out more than us as a race. When you look at the other groups of people, we attack each other the most. And so it's a sickness. And only those with sound right reasonability, those who have right knowledge, can fix this. And this is what the culture of Wu-Sabat is all about. This is what we're here to teach. So again, I repeat, we're looking for the true Nawapians. This is what the master teachers talked about. Those who really want to get back to the culture. Those who really want to get back to the culture, as the master teacher said. I'll read here. You are now living in the image of the beast, the devil. What happened to you? Right? He said, what happened to us? Since he's been gone from us, we regress, in essence, what he's saying. You know, that doesn't mean we were perfect when he was here, because we surely weren't. But at least we were building, we were developing, we were growing while he's here. But, everyone knows in warfare, when you take the head is the mind, the body falls. They know that. And that just goes to show you how much we really did not comprehend the doctrine. So that, because it's the doctrine, the culture, right? The doctrine teaches the culture. It is the culture that keeps us unified. And so if we fall apart, that's because we really didn't understand the principles of the culture. And that is why we're doing these discussions. This is why I've dedicated myself to doing it, because I've been doing this, as I keep telling you, for over 3 decades now. Teaching, learning, and teaching about the culture of Wu-Sabat, the culture of Wu-Nawap, the master teachers taught us. Because I know in my heart, that is the only way we're going to solve the challenges we're dealing with all over the planet. Again, we are a target everywhere on the planet. Woolly-haired melanated people are a target for everybody, to keep us in an oppressed state so that everyone else is able to dominate us economically. And the only way others can dominate you economically is because they have a dominant culture that subdues us. And we're around the world copying everyone else's culture, thinking that that's going to lead towards success. And we're just delusional. I mean, we're just absolutely delusional. We've been, for myself, right? For us who were born and raised in America, our people been fighting for equality, since after slavery. And it's just absolutely delusional. It's delusional. I mean, since 1865, when they so-called freed us, right? So-called freed us. Again, so-called freed us. Our people been fighting for some kind of equality, for civil rights, citizenship rights, right? All the way up to 1965, when Martin Luther King and them fighting for the civil rights, citizen rights, and you still didn't get it. And right now, with the new administration, right, what they said, the Trump administration, they're now taking back any leftover so-called rights we've supposed to have given with the attack on so-called DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. See that equity and equality We're still fighting for equality, to have equal status, and they're now banning all of that when they know good and well Black people in America are not equal. We don't have equal power in the United States to the Europeans. We don't have equal economics to them. We don't have equal political power. We don't have power in the educational system. We don't have power in the healthcare system. We don't have power in all of the businesses, from communication, the energy sector. We don't have any levels of control. The Europeans control all levels, and yet our people are still fighting for equality. That must be a absolute spell for us. What do they say? The definition of insanity: doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. We're absolutely out of our freaking minds. And it's sad because I watch this on social media and YouTube, and our people making all these different lectures and complaining about this and complaining about that. So, one thing was the musician, old school musician, Isaac Hayes. His son is created a social media app. I forget his son's name. I don't know if he's Isaac Hayes Jr. or whatever, right? But his son was complaining about how, I don't know, there's this what's this? It's like a social media movie channel called Tubi movie channel. And I saw a clip where he was talking about, I didn't really listen to the lecture, but the clip that he posted was that Tubi is pushing out Black creators because it's a platform like Netflix that showed different types of movies. And there was a lot of, I think, Black made, movies on the channel. And he's claiming that they're pushing them out. They're pushing all the Black people out after the Tubi, the channel, that platform has reached, I guess they're alleging $1 billion in income and revenue. So now they made their money, so they don't need us anymore. We help build something, right? And then as it starts making money, they take it and they push us out. This is this has been the same old song. We've been dealing with that in the music industry. We deal with that in fashion. We deal with that in intellectual property, right? Going back to slavery, the slave masters took so many inventions that we created. After slavery, a lot of inventions we created, we never get credit for. They took it from us. How long? This is 2025 and it's still going on. How long will the people keep dealing with the same levels of abuse? It's only happening because of high levels of ignorance. Our people are really suffering from high levels of ignorance. And we keep re-indoctrinating our children through the educational system, through the media, because the media is designed to brainwash our people. And global racism, white supremacy, media, it's all over the planet. They're doing it on a continent in Africa. They're brainwashing their own people on the continent, which is why our people on the continent have no clue on how to overcome all of the other cultures. I'm hearing things about Dubai in Africa, on the east coast of Africa, buying up all his land and investing and trying to influence and control on the continent. Everyone is taking advantage of the Congo with all of the resources and wealth that the Congo has. Our people in the Congo are completely brain dead, just brain dead. They have no clue what to do with all that wealth under their feet. Asking all of these foreigners, they're asking Donald Trump and them to save them from, because they're having some war allegedly with Rwanda and whatever, and the rebels, and it's a state of chaos. Why? Because they've lost their reasonability. What is that? They don't know how to make decisions. We literally forgot how to make intelligent decisions. And the first intelligent decision, as one of the principles of the wisdom of Tahuti teaches us, what? Preservation of yourself and your kind. We used to know that. That was taught in ancient Kemet. One of the primary principles of the wisdom of Tahuti is the preservation of yourself and your kind. And we literally forgot that. And we're paying a heavy price for our ignorance. So again, with all that being said, I wanted to read something, something the master teacher said in one of these, in the Master Secrets. Let me see, page 16. This is the Master Secrets, number 16. The Adamites' law on killing and those who replace them. Right? And so that's the name of the Master Secrets. We're going to go to page 16. It says this. He says, well, I, Pan Nabab Yananan, or Isa al-Hadi al-Makti, or Malachi Kobino York, Ukraine, am a full-blooded African, born in West Africa, Ghana, with a Sudanese full-blooded African Mudad father, whose name was Al-Hadi Abdul Rahman al-Makti, who's also born in the Sudan, African, and proud to be who and what I am in the flesh. He says, and you Nawapians of Wunawap must teach our people to be black and proud, and not khawuf, means fear, to say it loud. You are here with the hakakat, the facts, to set the record straight the world over, to replace lies with the truth. I have given you all the tools you need to replace the history of lies. Tanshas is called deception. And our right non-fictions to break the spell of ignorance on our people worldwide. You can help me as a Nasar or a helper to make all things new. You have with Wunawap the Sachem, which means power, and the Tachyor means transform. Our people, Jawef Wu Fawaj, which means inside out and outside in. So we have the tools we need to transform not just ourselves, but our people inside out and outside in, to transform us back into spiritual beings, having absolute knowledge of who and what we are by natural nature, that we are one people that have the exact same origins as the children of natural nature, the children of the Mozak-U. We have the right knowledge. It's our responsibility, as only us as Sabians have this information. No one else has this knowledge. It's up to us to teach it, to educate our people. And as I like to say, we start with the children. Because trying to teach adults, man, again, I've been doing this for quite some time. We're obsessed with our ego. Once you get to a certain age, I've talked about this before. Once you hit the age of 13, it's very difficult, because the system itself that we live in is designed to accentuate your ego, which is all capitalism is all about, the buying and selling of goods and services, right? It is designed to do that. So the older you get, the harder it is to talk to an individual, because they're so ego bound. And this ego issue is deeply rooted within our own organization. A lot of Sabians are like that, unfortunately. Again, this is why the master teacher put out, who are the true Sabians? Where are they? Where are the true Nawapians? Those who are true to the culture, because you have to surrender the ego. And you have to work as a collective group, a body. So, with that being said, before I really get into the discussion about cycles and planes and densities, I want to do a namaz, a prayer to the Nathar. Right? These are some of the elders, the masters, that the master teacher has given us. He's blessed us with their images, so that when we call on them, you can visualize them, their images, who they are. We have their names. I'm not going to get into their names right now. I mean, you have the three of them. This is Razun. He's on the far left. This is Zanun. He's on the bottom middle. And this is Dakun. He's on the far right. I forget the name of this brother in the middle, and the other two on the bottom left and right. I have to look that up. But I have a namaz. We call it a namaz, or prayer towards them, right? For you, this is for you. So I'm gonna do it in our language, Sabat, and then I'll translate it, obviously, for English. so that everyone can understand. This is important. It's very powerful to learn how to make contact with your ancestors. Again, as African people, as Native American people, we always communicated with our ancestors. This is what we've lost, these powers, these abilities, because they're the ones that gave us assistance on this realm. That's why we're going to talk about these realms, the cycle, the planes, and the different densities that we exist on, right? And that gets into understanding the nature of the SMAT circle that's dealing with cycles. So we're gonna really get into that. So let's get started with the prayer. We always open up our prayer system with hold on. We say Bade Kalal Namasat Wufak or Amad Kasemun Shalal Pa'ut. That translates as begin all prayer and thinking as a part of all. Think about that concept, right? I'll do it again. Bade Kalal Namasat Wufak or Amad Kasemun Shalal Pa'ut. Let's see where I'm at. Here we go. Yaye Nataru Satat Asmua Layeni. That means Ya Nataru. Please listen for me. Right? So this is what you're saying. This is why it's important to visualize them. I'll say it again. Yaye Nataru Satat Asmua Layeni. Ya Nataru, please listen for me. That's the name of the prayer or the namaz. We say, we go on. Yaye Nataru Satat Asmua Layeni. Ya Nataru, please listen for me. Anuki Kharat Ukum Asmuani. I am you all's child. Hear me. Yaye Nataru Satut Akbuni. O Nataru, please accept me. Nakuk Nadui Salafuni Layeh Nasor. I call my ancestors for help. Yaye Nataru Atfutni Bi Kalal Shaye at Munan U Pa Mudwa'u. O Nataru, guard me by way of all things from the evil ones. Anun Atun Atun Amun. And so we end all communication with the Natharu with those tones. Tones are key. In fact, that's what we're going to be talking about next week, about the tones, frequencies, and vibrations, how to connect to the different realms, the different planes that we're going to be talking about today. So we start off with cycles, right? So the master teacher has put out several books just on the topic of cycles. Okay, very important. He's put out numerous different books on this topic. On this topic, excuse me. First scroll that I like to always talk about that deals with the cycles is this is the Actual Facts number 13. Let's see, so you can see it. Yeah, Actual Facts number 13. And this whole particular scroll focuses on the different cycles. And so the master teacher in this scroll introduces us to the SMAT cycle, right? Or the SMAT circle, excuse me. Extremely important. You know, if you can get access to this particular scroll, it's again, most of the scrolls the master teacher puts out, you have to read them over and over and over again for clarity, because when you first read them, all you're going to have is a surface comprehension of what he's saying, because a lot of the information that he's put in these scrolls, in these books, we've never even heard this information before. It's not like we were educated in their school system. They don't address these subject matters. So, you know, when you're introduced new to a subject matter, it takes time for that subject matter to germinate in your consciousness to really comprehend it. You know, so reading it for the first time, that's just like an introduction where you become aware of it, but you don't comprehend it. That's why we keep saying you have to study the doctrine, because just about everything the master teacher is talking about, we've never been taught this stuff before. Okay, Tabuna, young lady, if you're gonna do that, I'm going to, ban you from the chat. I don't know how many thousands of times I've told you we had this discussion. You have to stop that, sister. Just because you disagree with somebody and you think I said this issue of your self-righteousness and thinking that you're right and we're wrong, that's a sickness among our people. And you got to cut it out. It's a sickness. If you're so right, stay on your channel and teach your truth. If you're right, and the people will listen. That's all you can do. You can't force somebody to say what you want them to say. That's a sickness. The same way I'm not going to do that to you guys. You have to stop that. This is part of that spell we talk about with our people. Our people are they're mentally messed up. We're constantly attacking one another, and it's because we don't agree, and we think our people. So many of our people are stuck with this self-righteous mentality. I'm right and you're wrong, and you did this and you did that. It's a sickness in us that we got from being around these demons. Tabuna, there's no talking to you there. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to ban this sister because she just can't control herself. She's been constantly coming on here, and I'll just remove her stuff. And because it's sad about when it comes to our people. So I just stopped her from putting anything out because this it's again, it's a sickness. Our people who they just can't control themselves. Hold on for a second. Hold on, family. Let me just fix this. Sorry for the delay, family. Sorry for the delay, but we keep dealing with, again, this is kind of what I'm talking about as far as the mentality that we have as a people, right? This again, this self-righteousness, it's a sickness. And what's worse, I don't even know this person. Like, she doesn't know me and I don't know her. but she's been doing it for years. I'm like, my goodness. It's like, man, but our people suffer from a mental health issue. That's really what it is. It's a serious mental health issue that our people are suffering from, and they're fanatical with of self-righteousness. That's what Umar Johnson's dealing with. I'm like, he has all these negative negative posts, all these people making these comments and videos about the brother. It's a sickness. We're a sickness. Our biggest issue is racism, white supremacy, but yet we spend all our time battling, attacking others, and that's the spell that we're talking about. As far as the prayer that I've read, it's in a scroll that that was a scroll that I've read from. Real quick. Let's see if I can show you which scroll. This was a Patarak that I read this prayer from. This is Patarak. Our tones, the A on wavelength A, excuse me. Our tones is wavelength A. That's where I got it from. Yeah, but family is I mean it's sad, this dealing with our people and this obsession with attacking one another. It's like, my goodness, this spell is insane, and we're doing it all over the globe. We're doing it. That's why they, it's like in a continent with those brothers in the Sahel, the Ibrahim Traore and the brothers in Mali. You got black people trying to kill them in their own countries, trying to take them down. Literally. And what's even sick about what's going on there is they want to kill those brothers so that they can allow foreigners to come back into those countries to exploit the resources so that they can all get rich off their people. While these brothers allegedly, supposedly, right? Because I've never been there, but according to the reports, these brothers basically want to push out the foreigners so that they can build the wealth within their nation so that all of the people can benefit, right? So from Niger to Burkina Faso to Mali, that this is supposedly what their agenda is, and supposedly foreigners are trying to eliminate them. They say France, the main one, but I'm sure the United States is there too, and they're getting help from their own people in the country. The elite, the so-called elite in those countries, the rich in the countries are upset because they can't exploit their people anymore, which is what you see in most African nations. The elite, the rich, are exploiting the masses of people, getting rich with foreigners, while the masses of people on the continent suffer. That's a sickness. It's an insane sickness. There is something wrong with disagreeing. Of course, there's something wrong, because when people are disagreeing, they're not on the same wavelength. A race of people do not supposed to disagree. A race of people all supposed to agree. That's how it works in natural nature. You don't see sharks disagreeing with each other. If you're of the same species, you're supposed to have the same mentality. That's why you don't see squirrels disagreeing with each other. They're not debating on who gets the acorn. Ants aren't debating who helps the queen and get the honey. The way nature works is a species represents one soul force or mental force. You disagree with adverse species. The disagreement comes from other different types of species, but you don't disagree within your own species. when you see that happening, that only happens because your genetics get corrupted, and you have foreign genetics that come in to you. This is a science we used to know and we forgot. And so we've been around these demons, the Mukasa, who teach that garbage about it's okay to debate and to dispute and whatever. That's them. Those are the children of sixth ether. They thrive off of chaos. Their whole culture is based on chaos. That's how they rule, to get everybody fighting and debating one another. We don't supposed to be doing that, debating each other. We can have discussions. There's nothing wrong with having discussions, because you have, even within a species, there's different levels of intellect. There's different levels of intellect among the masters. And so that's why they have councils. And then they vote. And whatever the vote is, that's what they go with. But we shouldn't be debating one another. You have your level of reasonability and your point of view, and you stress it. Someone else has theirs, and then we supposed to have councils, and then we vote. Everyone takes a vote, and whatever the outcome, that's what we go with. We don't then try to supplant one another because the vote didn't go your way. That's sickness and madness. And that madness and that kind of thinking is what has been destroying this planet for the last 6,000 years, that these demons of chaos been ruling. But be that as it may, okay, so now let's see. Let me get back. Let me share the screen and get back to where we were before we got delayed and interrupted. But that's all good. That's all good. I mean, that's the war we're in. We're fighting the battle of, and like I said, our people are sick. Our people are sick. This is what the master teacher has been dealing with. This is what he's been talking about. That we're sick people. We're the last people. We're the last people on earth that should be debating one another. With all the enemies we have, really? With all the enemies we really have the time to be enemies of each other? What's wrong with? It's like, my goodness, we're like, where's your reasonability? How the hell we don't see that? All this bickering we do here in America, Negroes fighting each other, and this white man is steadily killing us. He's imprisoning us, poisoning us, miseducating our children. The list goes on, but yet we got time to make videos about Umar Johnson and how he's robbing the money in the school. I'm like, we're a sick people. Absolutely sick. The poison music we're making, the poison movies we're making, we're sick. We're out of our minds. We're out of our freaking minds. No one degenerates themselves more than we do. No other race of people does that to themselves. And I'm trying to tell you, the master teacher has been telling us for years where it comes from. You're living with demons. These demons have taught us to behave like this, to hate ourselves. What's wrong with it? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad explained this. Marcus Garvey even explained these things. When we're going to listen to our leaders, we keep persecuting our leaders, and we sit there. You know what they say? An increase of black men voted for Trump. Are they got their minds? And the answer is yes. And why did they do that? I'll tell you why they did that. Because they've been brainwashed from childhood under this system. And the longer we keep our people here, the more brainwashed each generation will get. Our children are being thoroughly messed up mentally, especially because of all this computer crap is doing that. Because computers are now, especially with this GPT chat crap, is thinking for you. Don't you get it? What they have plans for your children? They don't want you to think at all. So now everybody is using this GPT thing to think for them, to write their essays, to do their homework, to do all kinds of crap. With Google, you don't do no damn research. Y'all don't realize how that's affecting your consciousness. With your cell phones, you don't have to remember no phone numbers no more. You're using less of your brain. And y'all clearly don't see the trap. Each generation it's gotten worse with our people since we've been with these demons. Each of our generation gotten dumber and dumber and dumber because he's gotten more and more sophisticated. Y'all didn't want to watch the lecture I did on neural strike weapons. I did that lecture a few weeks ago. Y'all need to really watch that lecture, neural strike weaponry. They're getting more sophisticated in their brainwashing techniques. A race's way is one way as a race. Again, a race supposed to exist as one race of people by nature. All that division crap, I can tell you 1,000 times. I know it's hard for people to comprehend because that comes from being around the Europeans, us being around them under the last 500 years, who taught you to be an individual. The whole European economic system, the whole cultural system is based on individualism. That's what they call liberalism. The whole liberal concept is about each individual having a liberty to do whatever the hell they want. That's Luciferianism. That is a part of Luciferianism and Satanism. That is a doctrine of demons. It is designed to divide peoples, which is how they were able to conquer the planet using that tactic of divide and conquer, getting people to disagree, getting tribes to disagree with one another, and they side one tribe and they team up to conquer another tribe. How do you think Cortez and the conquistadors took over the Americas? They used that tactic against the Aztecs. They sided with a different tribe who disagreed with the Aztecs and conquered them. And then once they conquered the Aztecs, what did they do next? They conquered the tribe that helped them. They did that with the Ashantis. Y'all need to wake up, people. Wake the hell up. Of these demons divide and rule tactics. The only way that matters is the ways of natural nature. Okay? Our people used to know to live in harmony with natural nature, and we've forgotten that. You know, we used to live in harmony with natural nature. So, all right, but let's get back. It's a lot. I got distracted, but that's all good. That's why I came live, really, to have talks with the people, because I can always post a detailed lecture on a subject matter. So don't be troubled by that, family, by me talking, because I'm looking at the chats and the comments and all. And discussion is necessary. It really is. It really is. Discussion is necessary. That's why I'm doing it live. Because if I need to do a detailed lecture on this, I'll just post it, and because I meant to plan to start doing that anyway, honestly, because I know a lecture could derail because of the chat, and that's okay. That's okay. I'll post a lesson no matter what if I don't get to finish or whatever. So that's okay, family. So don't get discouraged if you came here just wanting to listen to the lecture, because what I'm talking about is very important. It is. It's not just the knowledge. It's also dealing with the mindset of what we're dealing with as a people and how we should deal with the mindset we're dealing with, that we're dealing with. But again, I was talking about cycles, the cycles in nature, Okay, so we wanted to discuss the cycles. We're talking about the planes, and we're talking about densities. Okay, and so like I said, the master teacher's been talking about this stuff since the late 60s, actually, right? So when he put out the Bible interpretations and explanation books, that he taught about the cycle. So this particular actual facts number 13, it's dedicated to the subject matter of explaining the different cycles and talking about the two realms within nature. Okay, absolute nature has two realms: the realms of Nupal and the realms of Zupal. The realms of Nupal is when the universe is in its life cycle, and the realms of Zupal is when the universe is in its death cycle, right? And so this particular actual fact that I'm let me get back to it, that I was reading from, that's what this actual fact is all about. It's about explaining the cycles. Loud rumor around. Are you a troll? I don't know. I don't think you're here for the culture of Wu-Sabat, because you're talking about stuff that's just not a part of what we're talking about. What's that? Loud rum reacts. Are you even a Noapian, or are you what? Are you a Noonie Boo? Would you use with what's the name? Chabuna? Are you with them? Who are you with? Oh, okay. All right. I was just checking that because I don't know who's who, and people should tell people who you are so that we know. No, I'm not going to blame the sisters for asking for money. I'm not going to blame black people for asking for money. That's not fair. White people impoverished us. They put us in permanent poverty through slavery. That's what slavery is, where one person kidnaps you, puts you in a poverty state as a slave, where they take all your possessions and then they force you to make them rich. Okay. And so white people never shared resources and money with us. So we have every right to ask for reparations, to give us resources back that they stole. We have that right. Now, I'm not one who agrees with the asking white people for reparations, only from the point, not because they don't owe us, because they do owe us, only because of the point, why are we wasting our time with these demons? They're not to be trusted. They don't give anything. They're hoarders. All they do is conquer people and steal people's wealth. Our best bet is to just get away from them. Something that Dr. Dre did allegedly with Suge Knight, where Dr. Dre supposedly just left the money that he made with Suge Knight with their whole, death row. And he said, you know what? I'm leaving them. I'm going to create my own thing. He created that. What's that? That Aftermath Records, whatever that he created. And look what he did. Look what Dr. Dre did. He made triple the wealth, whatever. He's just under $1 billion, whatever, and look what happened to Suge Knight in prison and all. So it's the only issue I have with our people is you're asking money from demons, and they do owe us, but it's not worth the effort. We would be better suited by focusing on our own economics and rebuilding our own wealth without asking them, because black people technically don't need no money. We have all the money we need. What we don't have is unity. We have, and I've talked about this many times, we have a whole continent full of wealth in Africa. We have countries here in the Americas. We have Haiti, we have Barbados, we got Trinidad, Tobago. We have resources. We have unlimited wealth. Our problem is we hate each other. That's our problem. We hate ourselves. That once we fix that issue, we won't have a money issue because we'll be working as harmony as one race. The way the Chinese is. The Chinese are obsessed with Chinese. That's why they want to take back Taiwan. They want to take Taiwan and they want to dominate all of the Asian, nations because of the fact that they want to be one people because they are one people. And they're intelligent enough to understand that they're one people. Now, the Chinese, they purge all of the dissidents in their country. And I'm not saying we should do that to ours. We have to find a better way of purging the disagreeables in our race because we have a lot because they've been brainwashed. But the way you fix that is through, that's a genetic issue. The way we can fix that. That's right. You agree with me. So yeah, we owe that. But like I said, my issue is us wasting our breath asking these people for money. They're too damn cheap. They're hoarders. But that's a whole other discussion. But let's go back to the cycles, family. When we talk about the cycles on page 12 of that book, the bottom half of the circle of time is 6. And 6 represents the dead, right? So that's the realm of Zupal, right? Zupal. And the top half of the circle of time is 9. 9 represents the living. And 11 represents Nupal. That's the top half. So you have the bottom half and you have the top half, family. For you all to know that. Let's see, where are we at? Okay, the cycles spin counterclockwise. The master's talking about that. So, it spins counterclockwise. The energies in nature within the universe. In fact, you can notice that if you look at when they take pictures with the Hubble Space Telescope, and they're taking pictures in the universe. Let's see. Pictures, galaxies, right? And you see that they're first of all, they're like us. They're in a cycle. You know, and they these the pictures of the galaxies. They spin counterclockwise in a cycle when you study them. So that's also important to know when you're dealing with cycles, family. 1 2 1 2. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? 1 2 1 2. My bad. How long? I didn't realize I wasn't talking without no sound. How long was I off? How long was it? 5 minutes? Okay. I'm doing all this talking and turned off my own sound. My bad. Messing with all these buttons. My bad, family. My bad. Let's see. So I want to share my screen again. I don't know what you heard. I don't know. I don't know what you heard. What you heard. I'm doing all this talking. I was talking about the cycles, first of all, and I was talking about the realm of Nupu versus the realm of Zupu, right? And so the master teacher puts in his book, Actual Facts number 13 on page 12. He said the bottom half of the circle of time is goes from 6 down, and that's called the realm of the dead or Zupu. And the top half of the circle is 7 and up, and that's the living. That's the realm of Nupu. So when you look at the circle complete, you see 6 down below, that's Zupu, and on the top is 7 and up. That's the realm of Nupu. Now, woolly hair melanated people, we come from the realm of Nupu. Everybody with straight hair, they come from the realm of Zupu. Okay, so all the other races, from the Asiatics to the Caucasians, they come from the lower realms, right? When they came on the scene, and so the woolly hair melanated people, the African people, we existed in the higher realms, right? We come from the realm of Zupu, and we originally we incarnated onto the earth, but we come from the sons of the multiverse. That's why when you study ancient Kemet, everything is identifying the sun. Because our soul force, our energy, our energy essence, we're not physical, we're spiritual beings, we're energy beings. Spirit means energy. Our energies come from the sun, or it comes from the waters of noon that our ancestors taught in ancient Kemet, right? The waters of noon. And the waters of noon are the conscious gas forces of non-ether that grew the universe. And then we personify as spirit forces onto planets and grew bodies for ourselves. So that is our origins. It's explained in the Egyptian mysteries, but no one would know how to decipher those mysteries unless you was a spiritual master. That's what makes the master teacher so unique, because of him being a spiritual master, having that type of knowledge, and him being a part of the Nathar, these beings, the Riskians. He's one of them and all. And so he incarnated while the other Riskians, they still exist in their realms. Okay, so he's in communication with them, and his job is to teach us how to communicate with them ourselves. We all have a natural birthright to communicate with them. The problem is you forgot your tones, how you have to be able to vibrate on a certain tone and frequency to do it, to communicate with them. That's what our whole doctrine is teaching, how to fix yourself. And it goes back to culture. When you embrace a foreign culture, you alter your tones, because with the culture comes a language that alters your tones, like English, mess our tones up. And then you not only get a language with a different culture, you get different food, you get different clothing, you get different architecture and different environments. All of those things change and alters your tone. The ultimate thing that alters your tone is your genetics. When you mix your genetics with another race of people, because now the Caucasian want to sit there and say there's no such thing as race, when he's the one that pushed the whole racial concept. now he's talking about there's no such thing as race. There's no scientific. That's a disgusting. That's another lie that they love to lie. Of course, there's a such thing as race. If you look different on the outside, you're different on the inside. Okay, we're different species within the human family. the woolly-haired melanated species, where you like nature, you have different species of cats, you have different species of monkeys, right? We're a different species. You have different species of humans and all. And so the woolly-haired melanated children are one species, the Asians are another species, and the Caucasians are another species. There's primarily 3 different species of humans on the planet. Everyone else is nothing but mixtures of it. Like the East Indians, they're a mixture of us. You know, your Mexicans, they're a mixture of everybody. The Mexicans are a mixture of Asians, Caucasians, and us. So everyone is a mixture. The Puerto Ricans, they're a mixture. You know, most of all your Latinos are nothing but mulattoes. Your Arabs, they're mixtures. They're like Hindus and mixed with Caucasians. Some of them are mixed with us, the Arabs. Everyone else is nothing but a mixture. You know, from the 3 original root races. But the Caucasian taught that back in the day. The Negroid, the Mongoloid, and the Caucasoid. Those are the original root races of the planet. That was produced. Well, the Negroid, or us, the African, was produced by nature. And the Mongoloid will also be produced by nature, or the Asiatics, right? The Caucasoid are produced by genetic experiments. So that's a whole nother thing that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught our people about, the whole Yakub graph, the devil. Of course, the master teacher updated that story, the true version of it, or the correct version, because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad only had a specific branch of that knowledge. He didn't have the complete science on how that actually did happen, but it did happen. The master teacher, obviously, for those who know, explained in detail what the real history of that, with the overlords of the Caucasian from those, those Pleiadians. They come from them. So that's all important. So now, as we're talking about cycles, I hope we get cycles. So let's go to planes. Well, one more thing I want to talk about with the cycles that it's also important for us to comprehend about these cycles within nature. I was saying before, cycles, they spin counterclockwise. That's why I brought up the image of the galaxies. So that's also something important to know, family, is about the galaxies. When you look at an image of the galaxies and how they spin. So let me show you that. Right? They spin counterclockwise. So that's why I brought up the galaxies. And if you notice, you look at the digit 9 and the digit 6, that's where we get those digits from. From looking at the spiral in nature. It spirals from a 9 and it goes from a digit 9 to a digit 6. They're opposites of each other. 9 and 6 are opposites. They're ciphers within nature. Okay, so that's why it's used in our number system, because a lot of people don't know the number system that we have from 0 to 9, that comes from ancient Kemet. Because I think some people said that the Hindus, the East Indians came up with it, or the Arabs, whatever. No, that comes from ancient Kemet. We're the ones that came up with all the knowledge and science. Everyone else learned from us because we've been here first. It only makes sense. Of course, everyone lies, like the Arabs today in Egypt, claiming that they're the original Egyptians and not Africans. The stupidness. When first of all, half of the Egyptians in Egypt are nothing but mulattoes anyway, which is sad because they're denying their own origins, that they're Africans. But they've been brainwashed like so many other people. So let's see where we at with the cycles. Let's go back to the actual facts. Okay, so they spin counterclockwise. They turn in nature. Everything I was saying before is based on cycles. The planet Earth we live on, summer, winter, spring, fall cycle. The human body goes through cycles. You have a respiratory system. You have a digestive system, circulatory system, all of that cycles. You have the sleep-wake cycle, right? We as humans, we go to sleep we wake up. We go to sleep, we wake up, right? Women have menstrual cycles that they go through every 29 days. They say 29 and a half days with the moon. And also everything in nature is based on cycles. The human body, when you break down us two elements, right? We're made of what? Protons, electrons, neutrons, right? Those particles spin in cycles. So the body itself, all the elements in nature operates based on this principle. So that's important, family, for you to know, to really understand what I'm saying about how existence operates. This is why the master teacher focused so much on teaching us about the nature of cycles, okay? Because when cycles come, you have to know the importance of cycles, because when a cycle changes, the conditions in nature change, like on Earth, right? You go from, we're now in summer and we're moving from summer to fall here on, at least, you know, in America and on the East Coast, we're moving from the summer cycle into the fall cycle. So the environment changes, and that happens on a solar system level. It happens on a galactical level, and it happens on a universal level. So when a cycle changes, conditions change. And it's important to be in tune with that change so that you know how you should live in order to survive. Because if you get caught in the wrong cycle and you're ignorant to it, you can basically suffer the consequences, like getting caught in a blizzard and you have no coat. Imagine that. You're caught in a blizzard and you have no coat. That means death. That literally means you're deaf if you're not in tune with the cycles. And so it works like that on a galactical scale. And our ancestors used to track these cycles, these galactic cycles. Okay. And so, like, the master put out this book right here, The 7 Days of Creation. And this was talking about a 50,000 year cycle. We were at page 90. Just so you can see the scroll. This scroll is called The 7 Days of Creation. The master published this. When did he put this out? Like in 98, something like that. 97. He didn't put the date. 96 or 97. He put this out back in the 90s. And so he's talking about that we have 1,000 years left of a 50,000 year cycle. He's talking about we have 1,000 years left of a 50,000 year cycle, which is called the millennium. So when the year 2000 hit, right, that was the ending of the moon cycle. Okay. And we're now in a sun cycle, and the moon cycle lasted for 6,000 years. But the actual cycle of nature is for 7,000 years. And I don't want to confuse you. Because the Bible actually explains it. When they talk about the 7 days of creation, the 7 days, each day is one cycle, and one cycle is 7,000 years. And that's what this book explains. And so there's 7 of those 7,000 year cycles when the Bible is talking about 7 days of creation. So if it's 7 of them, and each cycle is 7,000 years. So you do 7 times 7, and you get 49,000 years. And that's what he's breaking down in this scroll, the math here. And so we just completed 48,000 years of that cycle. And we're in now the last 1,000 years, called the millennium. That's why if he says here, the shaded area indicates where we are at now. So if you look at the shaded area, and all on day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, and you get to day 7, and you look at how it's shaded, that's the last 1,000 years we're at. He says it right here. These are the 7 days of creation, totaling 49,000 years. We are in the last day, or the 7th day. Within that day, we are entering into the 6,000th year of that last day, and have 1,000 years remaining, right? So the millennium is 1,000 years. From the year 2000 to the year 3000 What does that mean? That means now we're moving out of a third density realm that we're in now, and we're by the end of the 1,000 years, we'll be totally integrated with the fourth density. We're moving, okay? And what does that mean? That means that the earth is changing. It's going to get hotter and hotter. That's why we have so many natural disasters on the planet Earth. In fact, they just had an earthquake. Where was this earthquake? In Afghanistan. There was an earthquake in Afghanistan, I think, yesterday. There's been all kinds of earthquakes. I think one just happened in Japan. Another one happened somewhere in South America. There's all kinds of natural disasters that's happening right now on the planet. Why? Because we're in the dimensional shift. The cycle is shifting and changing, and the conditions on the planet is changing. And so you have to be in tune with these changing cycles. Our ancestors knew this. That's why the master teacher came to teach, because if you're not in tune with it, you get caught up in the change, and you can be stuck like someone who's in a blizzard without a coat, and you're going to die. And this is why the master teacher came, to teach us and to tell us, you guys forgot your own culture of how to track these cycles. He talks about it here in this actual facts. So we just read an older scroll, the 7 days of creation. Now we're in a newer scroll. This is where we at? Actual facts 240, called the cycles. We got an actual fact. It's called the cycles, and he's explaining the same thing. We go to page 38. The master teacher is talking about the cycles, right? Let's see real quick. He says, I'll read from here. So you see from the year 2000 AD back to 2000 years. If you go back 2000 years, right, from today, that takes us back to Jesus' time. That'd be which give you the year 1. That'd be year 1 AD, when Jesus, so-called Jesus, was born, that they claim. It says then they count back from that year 1, 4,000 years. So you go back another 4,000 from the time of Jesus, and that takes you back to Adam, right? Because this is the birth of Adam, or the moon cycle, and it says this gives you 6,000 years, or 2000 AD back to 1, then back 4,000 BC. That would be 6,000 years less. Here's the key: less 1,000 to complete the 7,000 year. Because remember, each cycle is 7,000 years. Okay? Don't get that confused with the 6,000 moon cycle, sun cycle, moon cycle, sun cycle. Don't get it. Could get confusing. It's more, I would have to explain more, because if it is confusing, you can ask questions. I'll explain if it's confusing you, because it took me a while to figure it out myself. So I don't get frustrated. That's why you have to study the lectures, watch them over and over again, and ask questions. But you guys don't ask no questions about the lectures. Y'all need to ask questions about the lectures. Y'all don't know this information like this. I'm still learning it, and I've been doing it for 3.5 decades and all. As I explained earlier, I'm like, we used to all of this stuff, but we forgot. That's why we don't live by it. If we knew it, we would live by this, and we would be in tune with these cycles, and we would know how to dodge earthquakes and tornadoes and everything else. But we're completely disconnected from nature. So just like the Caucasian, we'll build a house on a freaking sinkhole. Your house will be gone because you're not in tune with the earth anymore. No, this won't occur within 1,000 years as far as a completely black planet. But it'll be completely black when you get back to the realm of Nupu, because only woolly hair melanated beings can exist in that realm, the realm of Nupu, right? So you have to understand, you have the realm of Nupu, the realm of Zupu. Straight hair beings can exist in the realm of Zupu, but only woolly hair melanated beings can exist in the realm of Nupu because the conditions are too potent, too high for lower species, straight hair species. Their genetics, they would have to have sun heat genetics, sun heat genes, as the master called melanin. Our melanin really comes from the sun and all. And so they would have to have our genetics to be able to survive. And even us, as we are today, we couldn't even survive and all. You can't survive the way you have to be in almost in an etheric form to be able to exist in those higher realms. But that's a whole nother discussion. Let's see. So he says, I'm going to read paragraph 147. Read on. He says, so you will see the single cycle is gone. Their 6,000 years ended in the year 2000 AD. That was thereafter. We are now in the hereafter for 1,000 years called the millennium. So we have another 1,000 years before we fully integrate family into the fourth density. Okay, that's the mental plane. That's where you merge with all of the other extraterrestrial species. They exist on the fourth density and up. Okay, so all these extraterrestrials that come to planet Earth, they're vibrating at a higher density and all. They're not a part of the third density. Most of them aren't. Let's just say that. A lot of them come from fourth density and up. Okay, that's why they have such advanced technology. So that's important to know. So this is another actual fact that goes into the same cycles. This is actual facts. Let me show y'all. This is actual fact number 20. This is the lost records of time. The lost records of time. Let's see. Go to page, I think 40. The lost record. This whole actual facts. Again, it deals with the different cycles within the last 50,000 years. Okay. So here's a diagram that the master did. This is the epoch. It's 50,000 years, and he breaks it down to 48,000. Then he got the 26,000 to possession. Then has 25,000. Then he has 24,000 the equinox. Then he got 12,000. Then you have 11,500. Then you have the 6,000 years cycle. Then you have 2000, where we at 2000 AD in the middle, right? So he breaks it down that we've been in the cycle of the last 50,000 years, which is called the epoch. Y'all with me on that? So because that's what I was showing you guys in that scroll, the 7 days of creation is based on 50,000 years, which is an epoch. And the actual facts, the master teacher is explaining it also in this actual fact. Okay. So if you get access to this actual fact, it'll break down the cycles. So next thing I want to bring up is, so let's knock those out real quick about the different densities, right? So now we have to go to where we at. Let's see. First scroll we need to look at is what is right. If you go here, what is Nawapu scroll? To talking about the densities, right? Okay, he says right here, 9. This is what is Nawapu, page 10. 9 ether forces first visit the minds of their posterity or descendants, because they know that nothing can be done right unless the mind is right. The mind cannot be right unless it has accepted the right knowledge. It says you are out of your mind and in his mind, right? We think like the Mokasu he's talking about. says you all share in a mental reservoir which vibrates on the fourth density. So the mental reservoir is on the fourth density. That's what the masters, they exist on the fourth density and up. He says everybody partakes of the mental plane, intellect, ideas, and creation. He says you vibrate on the third density, right? So we as humans, we vibrate on the third density, but we don't come from the third density. This is not our realm. This is, this is not our original realm. Although we're here, we're existing in the third density, okay? Right? But we originally come from the ninth density. So that's important for us to know. Like, so the master goes into that in actual facts. Where we at? Let's see the next one that talks about actual facts number 17. Emotional energy. We've talked about this many times. So when you go to emotional energy, right, page, so actual facts number 17, emotional energy, right? So we go with page here. Page 7. He says right here, he says the physical abode is referred to as the lowest abode because the nutational rate of its constituent atoms of quanta has the lowest frequency of 7 abodes. So he's talking about the SMAT circle, the 7 abodes we talked about earlier, right? And we're on the material plane. The third density is the lowest. It has the weakest vibration, the realm we're in. Says this planet, Earth, and the stars you see are all of this low nutational rate. So everything you see in our solar system, universe, this whole universe is operating on the same density, okay? The third density or the same nutational rate. It says each of the 7 abodes of existence of atoms and quanta, and each abode is differentiated from others by the different nutational rate of matter energy composing. So each realm, like if you're in a 4th density realm, you're in a different nutational rate. If you're in the 5th density, you're in a different nutational rate. Okay. So each realm has its own nutational rate or vibrational frequency. That's what he's explaining. He says, therefore, there are 7 nutational rates, 1 for each abode of existence. He says they who rule for 6,000 years or 6 ether beings don't have any scientific instruments on this physical abode which can detect or measure the presence of the 3 higher abodes, meaning they can't tap into the realm of Nupal, realms that are 7th density, 8th density, up to 9. They can't exist in those realms he's talking about. He says they vibrate, those realms vibrate much faster at a higher rate. He says it will destroy them. These are more refined or more divine abodes of existence, right? And those realms is, because those are the realms of harmony and bliss. That's the true heaven that the Caucasians talk about in their Bible. In those realms, because demons can't exist in those higher realms. So that's important to know. Now he goes on to say, here, he says, now Nawapians, you, Nagato, vibrate on all 9 ether abodes at the same time. So we're connected to all of the different abodes, okay? As woolly hair melanated people, that's our birthright. It says, as the atoms and energies. He says, while the originators, the Nagato, cover all vibrations as the creators of all others, from themselves up to 9 ethers. So he's just talking about all the others, all the other races, they have a weaker vibration, so they exist on the other, lower abodes than we do. We can exist on any of those realms. Okay, we originally come from the 9, but we can exist on any of the realms. So that's important to know in this particular actual fact. He goes on to say another scroll about this. Where we at? This is all right. Hold on, I'm gonna bring up another one that talks about the different densities. Okay, so this is are there UFOs in your midst, right? So this scroll came out probably like in 1996. So, like all the actual facts, y'all should know those came out like in the 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013. That's when most of those came out. But these are the older scrolls that came out in the 90s talking about it. So let's go here. So if you go to this scroll on page 107, he talks about this. I've read this numerous of times before. It's important. He talks like God consciousness, right? He says, or the first stage of being connected to the all, right? The creative force. It starts at the fourth density. That's why humanity is not in tune with nature, because of the fact that when you're on the third density, like we are, it's like a separation realm. This realm kind of disconnects you from nature, so you don't realize that you're supposed to be in harmony with nature. Once you're connected, once you exist in the fourth density, then you actually know you'll be in tune with the forces of nature. Okay? So this is why humans are so out of whack. And this is why humans can care less about nature and destroy it like the Caucasian, because there's no connection. Nobody's connected to nature like that. All right? Because this third density is almost like a barrier in your consciousness where you don't realize that, you have to be in harmony with nature. You don't pollute the water. You don't pollute the atmosphere. You don't create all this artificial crap to destroy yourself. That's psychotic. But that's what happens in this density, So he says God consciousness, or the first stage of being in the all, it starts at the fourth density, up on to the ninth density. He said it is awe-inspiring to humans of the third density. So humans can't comprehend the fourth density and up, because we're so locked into this. That's what, that's what the master's saying. We're under a spell and don't realize, because we're trapped in this third density, you're not in tune with the other realms. And what's crazy about it is the other realms are all around you. They're all around you. They're just vibrating at frequencies that you're not detecting. This is why the Mukasu is diving into quantum mechanics, and he's trying to tap into these other realms using artificial intelligence, using computers. As Nagato, you can tap into it naturally by your genetics, but our genetics got all messed up. And so you have to fix your genetics. The master said we got to get back to the A-tone, because of how we've been living, and we've messed our genetics, and it disconnect us from the other realms. That's why the master had to come, right? To teach us how to reconnect. But as I've said many times before, you have to do the spiritual work that most of us won't do, because we're so addicted to the lifestyle here. We don't want to give up the Mukasu culture, the European cultures. We continue to live this death-paced culture. We have to live our culture. That's why the master said what? He's asking, where are the what? We said this earlier when we first started talking about this. Where are the what? The true Nawapians. Where are the true Nawapians or Wu-Sabat? Those who really want to live the culture. Because that's the only way you're going to raise your vibration. Then we could set up a community where we're eating the right food, playing the right music, wearing the right clothes, creating the right constructions for home and housing. We can do things by nature. Grow our own natural foods. That is how you correct your vibration, because once your vibration is altered, it alters your consciousness, and that's what puts us under the spell. When you change your natural vibration, it alters your consciousness, and it locks you into another consciousness. And that's why we think like the Mukasu today. So our women are running around with blonde hair. You got black men chasing, all other races of women. Our consciousness is messed up because our vibration, our genetics is messed up. Only the true Nawapians are going to realize this and fix this. That's why so many individuals came into the doctrine and they left. They couldn't hack it because they really couldn't, fix themselves. It goes back, talked about the heart center. You have to correct your heart center. And I actually have to do a lecture just on that, explaining the heart center, the seat of your soul force. You have to fix that. Where is that? Here in this scroll right here. What and where is how? The heart center. Page 61. What and where is how? Okay. This came out, what, 2001, 2002? On page 52, he says this: hell will be in your heart center because it is the center of all emotions. So your emotions are moving from your brain down through the medulla oblongata, which is the back of your neck, the back of your head, down to your spinal column, your spine, which controls all of the body functions. That's the seat of your emotions, moving to your heart center, where your heart is. So when your emotions is affected, body, emotions, energy and motion, which allows to control your body. When you use your emotions to live a foreign culture, because your consciousness, somebody messed with your consciousness. Someone brainwashed you to live other than yourself. So you do everything, you use your emotions for other than yourself. That's what we call losing your soul, right? When you lose your mind, you lose your soul, because your soul is your emotions, your energy, how you do things. So everything we do physically, we do it for someone else, another foreign society. We're making money. We're making the Mukasu rich and powerful. We've been doing it since slavery. Out of our minds. Once you alter someone's consciousness, they use their body, their emotions to serve others. And we get attached emotionally to it. And that affects your heart center. So we will fight and die and kill for this. We will fight and die and kill for being a Christian. We'll fight and die and kill for being a Muslim. We'll fight and die and kill for being a Hebrew Israelite. It's because your heart center is locked into it. Your emotions is locked into that. And you can't change. A lot of our people can't change. They can't change. That's why I keep saying is we have to get them as children. You have to get the children because they're not locked in like that in the culture because they don't know anything. They just came into the planet. It's through the brainwashing. When you grow up in a society, they brainwash you, then you become obsessed with that system, especially if you go to school, you develop a career, you get a job. You don't want to change. Somebody come to you and say, how you've been living for the last 30, 40 years is wrong. You're not going to change. Or at least a lot of people. The smart among us will, but it's very hard. It's not impossible, but it's hard. It's very hard. And it's hard to help them because it takes a lot to try to explain to people why we shouldn't do what we do. Now, I've talked about this many times. Also, as a reminder for those who don't know, we do these live discussions every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Support. Thumbs up. Support what we do. Share. Spread the word. Let everybody know the culture. Wu-Nawap is the only solution. But again, as I got finished telling you, a lot of people they have a hard time with change. Embracing this culture. Again, family, this is how our ancestors lived back in ancient Kemet, ancient Kush. This is how we live. All our cultures prior to being conquered by the Mukasu, the Europeans, all our cultures was about connecting with nature, being in tune with nature. But again, our heart center is off. As the master teacher talks about, your spiritual heart, your heart, your physical heart, right? All our blood pumps through the heart. And so because of all our blood pumps to the heart, it creates a strong magnetic energy center at the heart, right? If you had a special machine, they can scan a human being and they'll see the most energies right at the heart center. That's That energy, that energy is spirit energy. That's called the heart center. And this is how we get affected by negative spirits at your heart center, basically. And that's where our lust is being controlled from the heart down. So we talked about that last week. You live by the lower self from the heart down. So somebody breaks your heart because you're attached to somebody, or something. You feel so heart connected to it, and I love this and I love that, and that's an attachment. And it goes from the heart down to the stomach, which is the food, right? All the poison food we eat, and then from the stomach down to your genitalia, the sex organs. So we're controlled by the lust of the sex. And the last is the buttocks, you releasing waste. And that's how humans live. They live from the heart down. You have to create an inverted heart. The master showed the inverted heart. I forget what that diagram is. He had the inverted heart going up. So you need to reverse it. You need to stop living from the heart down. You need to live from the heart up. So it goes from the heart to your throat, right? The throat is where the voice box is, your tones. Correct your tones. Your throat, that's an energy center. The tones, that's why we say the chant. That raises your vibration. The throat. From the throat, next is your nose. Your nose, the breathing. To learn how to breathe in rhythm, rhythmic breathing. It recharges your cells. And you go from the nose, what's the next one? To your forehead. The forehead is the seat of what we call the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland, it releases, your knowledge is coming out of the forehead. That's why when they show pictures of Jesus and he has this halo over his head, right? It starts right there from the pituitary gland, that halo over the head. So it radiates outward. This energy radiates outward from the head. It's at the forehead, okay? And then on the top, your crown, you have your pineal gland. Now that's radiating inside the brain. The pineal gland is what connects you to the masters. Once that's stimulated, it connects you to the masters. So when you're connected to the masters, they download information into your pineal gland. Your pineal gland sends it to the pituitary gland, which is your forehead, right? And you release that knowledge out of the forehead. It releases because it's in a negative polarity. The pituitary gland is in a negative polarity. The pineal gland is in a positive polarity. Okay, negative polarity releases energy. Positive polarity harnesses energy. So you harness energy into the mind through the pineal gland from the other realms. The pineal gland is what connects you to the fourth density, the fourth plane, and you harness information from there, and then you release it by way of the pituitary gland. I hope you're getting this. I know, but we don't. We got to. We have to talk, family. It's a lot, It's a lot. It's a lot. But these understanding the different planes and densities. So some other stuff I want to go on this. Hold on. I need to show you all. Let's see. What else we got here? That will go into the different planes. Let's see. That is scroll. Let's see. Here we go. Bring this up. Okay, so this is talking about, this is another scroll. This is a question and answer scroll on our spiritual teachings. The master teacher put out From ignorance into intellect. This is a question and answer books on Amun, our spiritual teachings back then. And so the master teacher was answering questions that people asked on a computer. And so he was talking about it. So he says right here, this is on page 33, the fourth plane is also where the Nathar are living in the realm of Malakut, right? So the fourth plane or the fourth density, we talk about it, right? That's where the masters are. They start there, they go up to the ninth plane, but they exist in all the other higher realms. So it says are living in the realm of what they call Malakut, which is the fourth plane. It says it is a pathway that spiritual beings come into. It's the gateway through the vortex. Extraterrestrials vibrate on this realm and start going up higher. When the spiritual being reaches the fourth realm or density, then they'll decide to come to the physical plane. Human beings are caught on 1, 2, 3. Your world is a 3-dimensional world. You are 3-dimensional beings. We are ninth dimensional beings. Then he says Melchizedek is also in tune with the fourth plane. Talking about the master is in tune with the fourth plane, or what they call the mental plane. This is the plane where mortals and mind meet, and the revelations are given to man from the fourth plane. That's why I said when you activate your pineal gland, you can connect with the fourth plane, and you can communicate with the masters, and they'll download information. It also helps you comprehend the doctrine, but you have to do the spiritual work. But you can't do the spiritual work if your heart center is off. Your desires, your heart center is where your desires are influenced by. You have to overcome your lust and your desires. That's why it's been very difficult for Sabians to do it, because it's one thing having right knowledge. You have the right knowledge. The problem is you have to get your heart center right. You have to become a good person. Excuse me. I didn't know if that was a question, Menka Ray, or you just was making a statement about meditation. Well, you put a question mark, so I'm not sure. Oh, okay. So he says meditation. In meditation are the downloads, the flashes of light. Okay, so if you're doing meditation, right? Here's the deal. What is the goal of meditation? The goal of meditation is to shut down. It's basically like sleep. When you go to sleep, you shut down your thoughts thinking about the world around you. Okay. But when you're in sleep, your consciousness shuts down. So everything just goes blank. Unless you start dreaming, then you're in the dream realm. Okay. But in meditation, you're trying to simulate a sleep state, but stay conscious. That's your goal. Okay. You're trying to simulate a sleep state while staying conscious. Once you can do that, you shut down in meditation. You're shutting down all thoughts of everything physical in your life. You blank everything out and you go black. Once you're able to do that, you shut down. It's like you're shutting down your connection to the third density. Then it reverses and it boots you up into the spiritual plane. Now, as you're booting up gradually, which is why you have to do meditation consistently, day in and day out, every day, you'll begin to take shape of different types of frequencies. So yes, you'll see different energies that will come in forms of flashes of light. You can see different realms because you're fine-tuning yourself. It's like a radio. You're trying to fine-tune the frequency to get to the right station, but it takes a while to do it. So that's why you have to be consistency. So if you're seeing flashes of light, you're in that fine-tune mode. You're trying to get into a channel. You're trying to connect to a certain channel. And so because you have the same genetics of the masters, you're tuning into them, because they're trying to commit. Because when you start meditating, there is, you send out, when you meditate, you're doing that, your signal shift, it sends a beacon to them. So they're now trying to communicate with you, but you're now trying to pick it up. So you might get flashes of light and different things, but you got to keep doing the work. You got to keep doing the work, because you got each meditation session that you do day in and day out, it gets, you get more, you fine tuning it more and more until you perfect it and you get clarity. So I hope that helps. That's the process. So where is that? Okay, so now, yeah. So I was just talking about again about the different densities. Let's see. So another one that talks about it. I want to bring up another scroll that goes into the densities. Let's see. Where we at? So debate. Let's see. Book 5, page 29. All right. So let's see. We're at book 5. Okay, page 20 is 28. Okay, so here we are. We're in this is question and answer book. Question and answers, questions. It says here questions and answer debates. This is book 5. And so we go to page 28. The master teacher says here, densities, talking about densities, right? Because the question asks the question, what is the difference between densities and planes? Densities is defined by matter traveling towards its own center. The planes are merely vibrational rates of energy moving in all directions. Densities are within the planes. That's key. So you have the 7 planes, and within each plane, there are different densities. So densities are within the planes. The planet is moving, talking about Earth now. The planet Earth is moving from a 3rd density into the 4th in these days. This is why there's so much turmoil, right? So that's why there's so much problems on the planet, because the energy is just shifting, and that messes with humans' consciousness. It messes with the consciousness of all species, especially if you're not in tune with the shift. That's why you have so much mental health issues on the planet right now, and all these wars and all this craziness and all the natural disasters, because of the shifting of the density. So we're moving from the 3rd density into the 4th density, as I keep talking about, right? So that's important to understand. This is what we call the dimensional shift. We're shifting. The energies are shifting up, and that's good news for us, because the Mukasu are trapped. They're trapped here to the 3rd density. They can't move into the 4th density. It's one of the reasons why they hate us so much, because they know that. And so they want to keep us down here with them. When you lose your soul, you get trapped down here with them. You keep reincarnating back into this 3rd density. That's why this information is so important, family. You don't want to be trapped down here and keep reincarnating. As the master teacher explains, you get what? 24,000 incarnations before you time out and cease to exist. If you want to continue to exist, you have to raise your vibration out of this realm. Where we at? Let me see. I'll show you the diagram. I've showed it many times before, and I'll show it again in the right here. The master gave us this diagram, this one right here, right? So this is 10. This is the the message of Yanun, right? And this third density get to the fourth density. So the earth is in the middle. The earth is right in the center, and all these different gates. You have to be able to, get through. That's why you do the spiritual work, to make contact with the masters, so that when you physically die, right? When you physically transition, they'll come to you. The masters will come to you when you physically transition, and they'll guide you out of the gates so that you can get to the fourth density. But you have to have your soul to do it, which means that you were making contact with them. You were doing the spiritual work to communicate with them, so that when your consciousness, so when you transition, your consciousness is calling out to them, and they'll come and they'll guide you out through the gates, the portals. This is important, family. So if you're not communicating with your ancestors and you're calling on the white Jesus, like most of our people are doing, they're stuck. That's why they keep reincarnating. They're calling on Jesus. They're calling on some word called Allah. They're calling on Muhammad. They're calling on all kinds of stuff except their ancestors. The masters, your great-grandmother, your great-great-grandmother, your great-great-great-great-grandfather. Again, that's why in ancient times we made images of all of our ancestors. That's why ancient Kemet had all those images. And then Mohammedanism came in. All that Mohammedanism told you to get rid of the images. And that cut us off from communicating with our ancestors. And the Catholic Church started calling us pagans, and they persecuted us for connecting with our ancestors. That cut us off. That cut us off, family. And we've been trapped down here ever since. This is how important and how powerful right knowledge is. So let's see another one. Let's see. What is soul and spirit? Page 74. Let me show you another one. Another scroll. Another important thing the master said. Let's see. This one right here. What is soul and spirit? Let's see. This is what is soul and spirit, right? What is soul and spirit? So I'm going to go to page 49. A couple points in this one. He says right here, nothing in existence rests. Every sense you have vibrates. Everything you see, hear, or touch vibrates. Vibration is what keeps the universe in order. The soul is what enables you to be in tune with these vibrations of the universe. Legato vibrates on the alpha wave. It is the middle C note in music. This note causes vibration within the chemistry of the body. That's why they trap your soul. While we should be tuning our bodies to vibrate on A, we're using our emotions, our soul force, our energies to live their culture. We're chasing music, we're chasing movies, we're chasing jobs, we're chasing schools, we're doing everything that Mukasu put out there for us to do. And you're using your soul force, all your energy, right, to the day you die. You get a job, you wait till you retire at 65, you're old, you're decrepit, your body is all broken up. You spent all that time not developing yourself. You use all your emotional energy, your soul force, to feed them and not feed yourself. That's why it's important for us to have our own economic system, because without our own economic system, we're trapped in theirs. because you have to make money, right? To pay for your food, clothing, shelter. They know that. And so you're spending all that time trying to survive in their system, and you're using all your energy because you got to study, especially depending on what kind of work you do. You got to use all your mind power to figure out how to live in their world to survive, and you're draining yourself. And that's basically you're giving up your soul. When you're supposed to use that energy, your energy to develop yourself, to correct your tones, to make contact with the masters. That's why the master teacher kept drilling us. We have to live in the community. We have to live in the community. You have to live in the community together so we can create our own economics together. But we can't do it if your heart center is off, if you're still addicted to so much. That's why communities don't work. And you have to get your heart center right. You can't be in a community and you're a slave, because we had quite a few people in the community. They were addicted to drugs. They were addicted to a whole bunch of issues going on in the community. The heart center was off. Having right knowledge, as I keep saying, it's not enough to know the knowledge. Your heart has to be right. You got to be a good person. Question. Hold on. You asked another question. Min Correa, what did you say? He says, but how do they know the way if they didn't have right knowledge? Not the masters, but our grandparents. We're talking about your grandparents who did. You do have family in your bloodline who resurrected. Now, of course, a lot of your family a lot of our family in the last 400 years didn't, but some have. Believe it. Some have. You do have family members in your bloodline who did resurrect, and you're connected to them because they're in tune. Anyone who resurrect, they're in tune with their family that they left on earth. Okay? So anyone who resurrected in your family bloodline, whether they did it 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 1,000 years ago, they're connected to the whole bloodline that's on earth. So they're watching everyone. They're watching you and all. And so as soon as you start to doing spiritual work, it sends a signal to them, because it's quantum mechanics. They call quantum entanglement. You have the same, because we have the same energy, the same blood, right? We're quantum entangled with our ancestors. And so as soon as you start raising your vibration, it's like it sends a radio signal to them, a signal, and they're now in tune with you. And and so they know when you're meditating. They literally they see it, they hear it, and all, and they'll tune into you, but you have to tune into them so that y'all can meet each other halfway. So remember that you're communicating with your ancestors in your bloodline who resurrected, not the ones who reincarnated. So I hope that makes sense. Where we at? Page 77. Yeah, so the master says this in the same book on page 74. He says, remember, you do not easily understand the spiritual world or the life of those worlds because they exist in different dimensions from those you do perceive. Thus, the logic that you may apply here to the material world doesn't necessarily mean that it can be made applicable to the higher realms. Until you free yourself from the insignificant things in your personal lives, you will remain confined to this physical realm. You have powers dormant in you. Okay, all things of the material world are just fair seeming illusions, ready to allure you into the devil's hands. This earth is just a resting place, and the heavens a firm foundation. It is to the bosom of the Most High where you are trying to return to, right? So you're trying to become back in tune with the creative force, right? The universal force. But this Mukasu got all these distractions, and that's why people, that's why they can't deal with right knowledge. Because they trying to get paid. Everybody trying to be the next Jay-Z or the next Beyonce or the next Bill Gates or whatever that illusion they're chasing. And I say it 1,000 times. Why are we chasing money? We have all the money on earth. Black people are the richest people on the planet. We have the richest continent on the planet. We have money. What we don't have is love for each other. That's the problem we're dealing with. We hate ourselves. We have to overcome that. That's what you spend your time doing. You spend your time, you first have to learn to love yourself. And once you have true love for self, you have true love for your race. Again, that's one of the first primary principles of the wisdom of Tahuti. The wisdom of Tahuti is the preservation of self and your kind. You have to fall back in love with blackness. And once you do that, then you stop blaming your people and attacking your people. As I was saying earlier, everybody's attacking Umar. I got 1,000 videos about he's a fraud, he's a fake. And it's nothing but Negroes doing that to him. It shows you how sick we are. You got black men attacking black women attacking a black man. It's a sickness. It's a bona fide sickness. And we don't want to see that if somebody in our bloodline, our race does something disagreeable, they're hurt or they've made a mistake or there's something wrong with them mentally. They need help. They don't need to be attacked. They need help. Think about it, family. You got this drug crisis going on, a fentanyl crisis right now in the United States. Tons and tons of white people are suffering under this drug crisis right now. You see the white man do a war on drugs on them? They did a war of drugs on us in the 80s. All these brothers doing crack and cocaine or whatever. That's something. They did a war on drugs and put us in prison. But now their people are suffering from massive drug drug addiction today, right? What they call a fentanyl crisis. You don't see Mukasa doing a war on drugs on their people. Why? Because they love their people. Because they see fine, they're making a mistake, they're hurt, whatever. They're trying to figure out how to solve it. And they're talking about, they're blaming the Chinese. They want to attack the people that's doing that to them. Trump is talking about he want to invade Mexico and get those drug cartels. That's someone who loves his people. But what do? We attack our own. We attack Umar. We attack whoever, whatever Negro of the day that you don't like, rather than trying to figure out how to help our people. We all been brainwashed. Everybody's has been victims of white supremacy. We've all been taught to hate ourselves. But no, we got to keep talking about each other. Okay. I didn't get into, we talked about densities. We talked about cycles. I really wanted to talk about the planes of existence, the different planes, right? Because that's very important. Just real quick, because the master teacher introduced this stuff to us way back in the 1970s. Okay. This is a book right here, real quick. This was important too, because this is the rebuttal to the slanders when the Sunni Muslims were attacking us. Again, another black guy back in the 80s wrote a book about the master teacher attacking us, calling us a cult, with Ansar cult, and the master teacher wrote a rebuttal to the book he wrote about us. And this book came out in like 1990 when I first joined the community. This is when it came out. Because his book, the book came out like 1989. The master wrote this rebuttals like 400 some odd pages in 1 year. And he gave this book out for free to us. He literally gave it to us for free to read it. Now, it was over my head. I didn't comprehend anything because I was new in the culture. But what's interesting about it, the Muslims were attacking us because they mainly they was attacking the cultural lifestyle of the master. They always attack his sex life and all that crap in the community, but they did attack concepts in the doctrine. That's what's important, because it shows you what we were teaching. The master teacher was teaching the same stuff, and that's what was throwing off the Muslims. Like, what the hell is this guy talking about? Becoming in tune with Allah, being one with Allah, and we're gods, and like, these are concepts that they don't teach in religion. That they teach you worship God, you worship Allah, not you are Allah, not you should be one with Allah. They're like, where do you get that from? And that's what they were talking about. That's what he was debating in the book. So like on page 198 in their book, the guy name was Bilal Phillips. He writes in his book, he says Isa, because the master's name was Imam Isa, he says Isa also subscribes to the heretical, heretic, call him a heretic concept with regards to God and man. He says the belief that God dwells in man. However, in order to make this belief consistent with the black racist philosophy, he restricts God's presence in mankind to blacks only. And so he's like, what the hell? What are they teaching, that only the black man is God? Right? I'll tell you why we're teaching that, why the master was teaching that in the 80s. Because we're the only ones that come from the realm of Nupu. We come from the creative force itself, the forces of nine ether. All the other races came after us. They came in the realm of Zupu. That's why they can't exist in the higher abodes. So the master was teaching this knowledge using the cover of Islam. And the Muslims were like, what is this guy talking about? What is he talking about? That's what they was attacking us. And they was attacking the teachers and all. Because the master teacher was breaking down the different planes. So like here, where we at? They said right here that the guy writes in his book, Bilal Phillips, he says this concept of Hindu origins became popular among mystics from the Abbasid era in the 10th century to the present time. He says Imam Isa combines it with the pagan Platonian belief in the planes of creation. So they was attacking the master for talking about the different planes, the different realms. They're like, where is this coming from? You getting that from the Greeks? That's not Islam. And like, they had no clue what we were teaching at all. Because the master break down the planes right here on page 200, the different realms and all. He's breaking down. This is talking about the smack circle. This is in the 70s. Do you hear me? And he was doing it through Islam, but they attacked him for teaching it because they didn't know where he was getting this information from. They thought he was getting it from, from I don't know who they thought it, the Hindus, actually. Yeah, they're accusing the Hindus. The master teacher, right, he responds in the rebuttal. He says, if you believe this, Mr. Phillips, you obviously don't know the difference between al-Islam and the Hindu religion. The Hindu religion is the religion of Azazel, or Satan, when he came to earth with the 200 fallen angels. They came down in the image that attracted the men and women. They were in the form of men and women and hermaphrodites who were worshipped in the body and inhabitants of the land of Nod and were called gods or deities. They spoke and wrote Arabic backwards and upside down, which is the language and script of the Hindus today. In al-Islam and Hinduism are two different religions. One is guided by the positive energy, which is the green light family, and the other is guided by the negative energy, which is the amber light. Okay? So that's how the master teacher, responded to him. That, remember, we said all of these religions came out of ancient Kemet. They just plagiarized it. And they didn't know anything about the spiritual science that we were teaching in ancient Kemet and ancient Samaria. So religion never began to explain what the spiritual teachings were all about. They they talk about the Holy Ghost and the Holy Spirit, but they didn't know the science of none of that stuff because it's not their doctrine. That's why they didn't understand it, because the Romans and the Greeks copied the doctrine, and that's why they're thinking we're getting it from the Romans and the Greeks, because they stole the doctrine when they conquered our lands, and they distorted it and created their religion. And so this is a very important point to make, and this is an excellent book, because this book, like I said, came out like 1990, and it does a good job of explaining what we were teaching in Islam. And when you match up what we were teaching back then, it's really the same stuff. That's why in the actual facts in the doctrine today, all it's been is updated. The master says that in the actual facts that I've been teaching y'all this stuff since 1970. Y'all just didn't comprehend it back then, back then. He said you didn't comprehend the spiritual stuff I was explaining and how important it is to understand cycles, the planes, and different densities. Now, I do want to go. I probably need to do it next week. Talk just about planes, because you really need to comprehend that, because we don't have any more time. But the Science of Creation, this book right here, focuses on planes in really good detail. Where we at here? Yeah, this is the Science of Creation. This the first edition of this, I think the master wrote like 1971 or 72. He wrote that back then. And so, again, that's why they started to attack the master teacher. We're saying we're one with the creative force. I'll show you right here. This is a book that came out back in 1980. This book right here. This is where we're at. Why Allah should not be called God, right? Because we tried to tell the Nation of Islam that. The first edition of this came out in 1972. This edition is 1980. And you go to page 13. Master teacher says right here. He says Allah is Al Kalum, the all. The sum of everything in the universes, not the universe, but the universes, the multiverse. Nothing can be added to the all or taken away from the all, right? So we were teaching about the creative force using Islam as a cover. And so that's why a lot of people didn't comprehend what the master teacher was doing. And the Sunni Muslims were attacking us and attacking these teachings because they didn't know where it was coming from. Because they don't know that Islam came out of ancient Kemet. They didn't know that. The master teacher knew it. They didn't know it because they were following those Pale Arabs. But again, like I said, I want to do a thing. I'll do one more book before I close out. This book came out in 1988, right? I just want to confirm for you all to see that we were teaching this science back then. The science of healing, the science of sound healing. Science of sound healing. This was copyright in 1988. Listen what the master says here on page 1. He says, "Welcome, O seeker of divine truth, to the second step in the study of the science of sound healing." This is book 2. One of the mediums that you will employ when seeking complete and divine union with the boundless universes, for us to be in tune with the universes, the multiverse again. Okay? He says, I say one of the mediums because there are many ways in which you can attune yourself to the higher realms. The striving Muslim knows that no individual can elevate to any particular spiritual plane without asking for it fervently, right? Constantly. Constant dhikr or remembrance is the gateway through which you can attain access to Allah, right? So we was explaining Allah is the creative force, not when the Pale Arabs talk about Allah, they talking about a spirit demon that they're calling on. That's why the master's like, we got to get out of their tones and not use their language, because their language, the way they put their meaning to words, changes the tones, changes the frequency, blah blah blah. And it's one of the reasons why the master wanted to get away from using religion, although he felt he had no choice to use religion, because that's all our people was thinking. That's what their consciousness was. You're talking about the 60s, you're talking about the 70s, the 80s and whatever. So he used that to teach a higher science. But again, a lot of the people back then who were students, they couldn't make the transition out of that into Nuwaubu because they were just religious. They didn't take serious the science in the spiritual teachings that the master teacher was teaching back then. It just went over their heads. They didn't know what he meant, becoming one with Allah, or in different realms and the different planes. They had no clue what he was talking about. Sadly, a lot of people today still don't get it. That's why we say we're looking for the true Nuwaubians, those who really understand and want to, embrace the culture, what we're really talking and teaching about these different realms and how to tap into it and how to make contact with the masters again. That's why I'm showing you book by book. I'm not just coming out of my own philosophy. I'm showing you book by book what we taught and what we were teaching. And I'm showing you old books, new books, whatever books. The doctrine has been the same. The doctrines never changed. Our objectives never changed. We just had a lot of bad students, unfortunately. And so that's why I have to show you book by book and read it for y'all so y'all can see for yourself. Because if I didn't use these books, people be saying I was making this stuff up. Trust me. If I wasn't going book to book, literally people like, where's you getting that information from? So I'm saying this because of experience. I've been doing this long enough. Trust me. And all. So again, I like I said, yeah. So next week we'll talk about planes, and then I'll also talk about tones, vibration, and frequencies, right? How to tap into these different realms. What should you be doing, right? So because the master put out a lot of information on that in the books, what you should be doing, putting this stuff to application. Okay, it's very important to understand that, and it's the difference between understanding religious dogma and spiritual teachings. I'll leave you guys with one last quote where the master touches on that very point. Where are we at here? This is actual facts. Let's bring this back up. No, not this book. This is actual facts number. Lost records of time. Here we go. So this is actual facts number 20. We were talking about this earlier. This is actual facts number 20. The lost records of time. I'm reading from. He says all of this deals with 2 points, right? The distinct difference between spirituality and religion. What is the difference between spirituality and religion? He goes on to say. He says, Wu-Sabat, or our spirituality, is understanding and practice concerning the realization of forces, visible deities and invisible deities, alive and dead, but real beings, facts. So he's talking about, we in spirituality, you're connecting with the different forces of nature, and you're acknowledging the different beings who exist in the different realms, vibrating on different forces, basically, right? The Nathar. He's referring to the again the Nathar. Okay, and his job is to teach us how to communicate with them. That's what he's doing. So you got to change, but again, we got to change our tones, our vibration, our frequency, right? Now he goes into religion. He says, now, whereas religion is an understanding of many organized institutions on beliefs unconfirmed, a practice concerned with non-realization of forces. So religion doesn't teach you anything about the different forces of nature. Okay, it's based on hopes, wishes, ghosts, and invisible gods. Only the dead, or fictions, not real beings. The business that has evolved out of spirituality realities. Basically, religious dogma came from spirituality. That's what he's explaining. Religious dogma came out of spirituality. And so he was saying, but these days, spirituality is not anthropology, but quantum physics, right? So now the Mukasu science are tapping into the other realms. They're tapping into the different, dimensions. In fact, anyone who follows the whole UFO phenomenon with the secret government having high levels of technology, basically being able to open up portals, go into different realms they're talking about now. They talking about they have crafts that go to different planets. So they're now in tune with these realms, but they're keeping it secret from the general public, and they're keeping the masses of people in a state of ignorance with religion. And they won't tell them the realities about existence, about the multiverse in different realms and environments that the master has been teaching us since the 60s. So that was a lot. Question from Minka Ray. Are there other rituals that we can do on our own, being that we don't have the community to raise our vibration? Besides the Pa Nashad, the 4 prayers, and calling on the 99 Nathar. Okay. Yeah. Well, one is the breath book, right? Learning to breathe in rhythm. Okay. In fact, we're going to touch on that. That's why I say I didn't have enough time to go into really digging into explaining about the planes. When I can get into explaining about the planes of existence, because we talked about density, we talked about cycles, but we really didn't get into the different planes like that. And that book that will help explain it is the science of creation. It talks about the different planes. You have to understand that, right, in your spiritual work, and because it'll make your spiritual work will make more sense once you understand, because we're operating on a physical plane, or we call the material plane, and it's connected to the plane of force, which is also connected to the spiritual plane, which is then connected to the mental plane. You have to understand all 4 of those realms, okay? And because you're connected to it, but you're not aware of it. And so when you're doing spiritual work, your spiritual work is to tap into it, because you can communicate with your ancestors once you are able to tune into the spiritual plane and the mental plane, and how to do it, right? That goes into the rituals, how to do all of that stuff. So we'll talk a little bit more about this next week, where we'll get into the planes, we'll get into vibrations, tones, and frequencies. That's Actual Facts number 18, where the master teacher goes into that. Actual Facts number 18 deals with that topic, and that's where we'll tap into that next week, right? Next week, Actual Facts number 18. I'll pull it up for you right here. Actual Facts number 18, tones, sound, DNA, molecules, vibrational frequencies. So that we'll get into that, and talk about more in detail with the planes, right? Next week, family. So next week, same bat time, right? 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right? 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That we will have discussion live, and I will leave you out with I'll do a closing namaz, a closing prayer that we'll do. Let's see. This is I'll leave with this one. Bade Kalam Namasat Wufad Kor Ahmad Kasamun Shalal Poet. Begin our prayer and thinking as a part of all. Nakuk Rahul Manan. Manan Kun Kare Panan. I depart from you all with this. Aruf Kun Salafu. Know you all's ancestors. Ah Luk Laya and Kun Salafu. Link toward you all's ancestors. Ahsukum Salafu. Respect you all's ancestors. Anduikum Salafu. Call on you all's ancestors. At Ruikum Salafu. Exalt you all's ancestors. Anuch bi Enkum Salafu. Live by way of you all's ancestors. Azkor kum salafu. Remember you all's ancestors. Ashak kawun leye and kum salafu. Divine love is for you all's ancestors. Asyor muslafu. Become one who is an ancestor. Anun Atun Atun Amun Jadah Wawad. Jadah Wawad. Very good, family. Until next week, Moisar. Love you all. I shook. Why do?